All right, I have just arrived at the job site. What we're doing here is we're going to widen this driveway. This driveway is going to widen all the way out about 15 feet off of the garage. Eventually, they're going to open this wall up and have a drive-in. All the gravel is going to be dumped into the backyard, and these boulders are just going to get pushed over to this side. Let's take a look in the backyard here, see where this new garage is going to go at some point. It's going to set probably right around right back here where these trees will probably come out. Travertine pool deck, brand spanking new. It looks good. All right, time to get the tractor off. Hi, David Odell here with Odell Complete Concrete. Here's the driveway addition, which will be a future RV access to a garage for an RV. So it's got to have a high door. It's got to have at least 12 feet to get an RV in there, but that's what's going to happen here eventually. And this is just the beginning of the driveway entrance to it. So what we're doing here, this thing's going to be an average width of 16 feet. It's 47 feet long. It calculates right at 9 yards of concrete. I went ahead and got 11 yards because we can do that out here in Arizona. Like in Cali, I could get 10, and that was the max, but I'm able to get 11 over here, and that gets the job done without a short load. So that's what I did here because I'm running a little bit deep. The gravel, all this gravel is going to get repurposed into the backyard and spread somewhere eventually. So for the time being, I'm going to dump it over the wall, but I can go through the gate because this tractor is only 36 inches wide. And that gate happens to be about 4 or 4.5 feet wide. So I could even go through there if I wanted to, but it's got a decent high reach, so I can just drop it over the wall. Just keep my pattern simple and straight. So as I'm moving this gravel, I'm being careful not to incorporate the dirt into the gravel. I'm just skimming the top. So that's why it's going to take me a little bit more time to get this excavated because I want to make sure that I don't get the dirt into the gravel. So it's just me and my brother Doug. We're doing this one. The original Odell brothers, by the way, from 1980. When we kind of got rolling on this. Now we got old school brothers and we got new school brothers. Isn't that nice? Carried on the tradition. So here's where I made the mistake on this thing. I was thinking, okay, I sold the job, boom, it was great. And then we got a couple tree stumps that I learned about, and I didn't know how big they were because I couldn't see them because the trees were already cut down and the stumps were hidden under the gravel. So I thought, okay, they're probably just little trees. They'll probably just pop right out with the tractor. Well, they didn't. They were difficult to get out, very difficult. And it come to find out they're like mesquite, super hard wood. And they're about, 9-inch diameters. Mesquite. You'll get the chance to see how I had to bang these thing around and try to get them out. I used all kinds of stuff. I got the chainsaw, brand new blade on that chainsaw, smoked it in a couple seconds because that wood was so rock hard. It's like cutting through stone. Yeah, once I exposed the gravel and everything, took a look at these. I mean, I should have dug around them when I initially came out here and took a look at them. And I would have known that maybe I should try to get a little extra cash out of this deal to remove these things or get a tree guy to come in here and remove them. But I was determined to get this done. I always do what I say I'm going to do. So it's exactly what I did. I got it done. The trick was I initially dug around them pretty heavily and kept trying to get the roots, trying to break the roots, give it a little freedom of movement after I busted a few roots. Tractor still wasn't knocking it over, and that's rare with this particular tractor because it's got a lot of power, 40 horsepower on this little unit versus the Bobcat, which has about 20, I think. So it's got a lot more boom than your basic 36-incher. So you can see I'm working. You can see it start to move here. This stump is starting to move a little bit as I work on it. It's kind of like wiggling a bad tooth out or something. You got to get the roots and all. So now I went to the chain after I burned. This blade's already burned up at that point. but it was able to get through that 2-inch root. My initial plan when I exposed those things were just to make a bunch of cross cuts on the top and then knock it down below grade. That wasn't going to happen, so I had to go deep and hard. Now on the next stump, I came across over here another little monster. And this thing I wasn't going to toy with at all. I just kind of loosened up very little with the tractor and dug around it a bit. Then I decided to bring in the 4-wheel drive Ford F-250 with the trailer on the back and get some weight. I got some hooks on the front bumper there. That's kind of standard for these bad boy Super Duties. And then I just put it in 4-wheel drive, backed up, pulled it like a rotten tooth. Got all the roots, stump completely gone, which is nice. So you're not going to have decomposure. But I wasn't concerned about decomposure with the hickory. By the time it decomposed, it would have been 100 years later. But we got it all out. Now we just kind of fine-tuned it with the tractor, back-graded it. Then I ran the plate compactor on it. A lot of water. And you can't oversaturate this. Matter of fact, you can run this thing 24/7 with the water hose, and it's not going to get oversaturated. We're sand and rock on the top of a mountain. Now here's another little detail I had to work with. I've got a special blade on this I put on here. It's supposed to do like 100 times more than a carborundum blade, so I can just keep cutting steel. Oh, it looks like a diamond blade, but it's got some other stuff in there that cuts steel. 100 times longer than a carborundum though. Not likely, but that's what it says anyway. Here's drilling. I'm drilling 3/8 inch diameter holes into the side of this driveway. And you notice how many joints there is? They're on about 5-foot centers. Each square of those joints gets 2 dowels, one on each side of each square. It's not just one in the middle of a square, but it's one on each end. In case they move independently, it'll shift over to my stuff, which will follow the same joint pattern. Everything will move simultaneously that way without getting a trip hazard where the two will join. That's always nice. Who wants to trip over that half crocked? So I'm throwing some wire mesh in here. We're running at about 110, 115 degrees. So there's some more challenges than you would normally have on a different type of environment. So what we're doing here is we're going to add fiber mesh. We're going to add 1% retardant. We're going to do wire mesh, and we're going to do big rock. All these different things make a difference. And then also we're going to use some serious curing compound. After we brome, we'll do a curing compound on this, double coat, to make sure that this thing has been done the best way it can possibly be done to avoid cracking. Here's Eric pulling up the wire. You can see he's getting good at that too. You notice how he stays right where the concrete's dropping and he lifts it as it falls. So he's not missing anything. So he's getting really good at lifting the wire. We've got Luis here. He's catching the edges and making sure that everything is done properly while I rod the concrete and screed it off. We've got Doug on the bull float. So on the edges here, I tapped all these forms as we went out just to get the rock pockets off the edges. So when we strip those, it's going to look really consolidated. I've got a few screed pins in the middle to hold elevation because I don't really like to freehand anything if I can avoid it. So there's no tamping, no vibratory screed, but it's laying down pretty nicely, as you can tell here. We're running 110 degrees, so everything's happening a little bit faster than it normally would. Using an aluminum screed, that's a 12-footer. And if you notice that truck when it backed in, I had 4 2x4s running lengthwise along that drop on the curb into the hole to kind of span the weight. Sometimes if you don't put those in there, the concrete truck will break that curb down going in and out. So it's kind of like a ramp, kind of softens the drop. We're going to go ahead and joint this thing out because we want to match the existing. Otherwise, I probably would have saw cut it if I wasn't matching. But since we are matching, I'm going to go ahead and joint this out And this is the Arizona joiner on this one. They're at about 5-foot centers. We're going to have one all the way up 47 feet long. And then we're going to have about 4 or 5 across. Here's the dry line snapping now that we're going to be popping on this thing. That initial joiner that went across there was about a 4-footer, about 2 inches deep. So that's getting a good cut and break on that aggregate. So what that means, when you separated big rock like that deep, whether or not you follow up on a joint at all, you could actually just cream that thing in and it's still going to crack straight on that line, just by the virtue of the fact that you've separated rock that deep. And they don't go back together unless you vibrate them. So in other words, if you put a joint in the wrong place, and then you just kind of cream it in, and you want to move your joint over, well, it's probably still going to crack on that joint you creamed in, plus the new one. So you're going to have 2 cracks side by side. Or you might just have one where you actually didn't want it. There's Doug on the funny float. I grabbed a funny float as well. Everybody's got a pull tool right now. And we also got Luis out in the middle, just doing some touch-ups. Here's the funny float in action on a close-up. It really gives you an idea of what it does and how much benefits it offers. It gets it down flat, brings up some cream, knocks the rocks down a little bit, brings the cream over the top of them. Then you got a little something to work with your funny trowel. You can't just bone dry this thing on a funny trowel without a funny float permitta. There's your 14-inch wide, 1/2-inch walking edger. A magnificent tool. There's Brandon. Did you see the cameraman / editor? He's getting some close-ups for us today. Luis brought this new guy with him, and look at that trowel. He's got a 20-incher there, and it started 4 inches wide. Now it's down to 2. He's really burned the heck out of that thing. It's now a 20-inch burner. It used to be just a nice trowel. Now it's just a burner. Oh, guess what, guys? I've got some great news for anybody out there that really wants to learn this stuff. It's nice to watch the videos in action, but to tell you the truth, you're not gonna be able to do it very well. I mean, you'll get the idea, the concept, the stages, but really what you want to do is get out here on my seminars, enroll in that, or get me on a consultation within the Zoom, and we can walk through the whole process together. It's all on my website, odellcompleteconcrete.com. We've got a little shade on that wall, so that's going to be our last spot we broom probably. And you can see from the looks of that weep screed on that side of that garage there, the slope, the amount of slope that we have from right to left. See how he moved that cream off the edge of his trowel? And then he even pulled up a little bit more to slam on the side of his edger to fill in those rock pockets. Because I'm telling you, these rocks are very near the surface. No tamp, no vibratory screed. And it's setting up quick enough to where those rocks aren't going to settle. And we poured it stiff enough so they're not going to drop. All those things make a difference when you want really good crack control. The nice thing about this, the batch plant is less than 3 miles away from this site. So we got a really great fresh load. Okay, so our short joints that we cut across this driveway, they've stayed fairly straight. But this long one that we had to get out there on sliders to try to cut, because you can't run poles 50 feet and keep it straight. So that center one, I had to go out there and rework it with a straight edge. And it helps to have 2 guys when you're coming down a line like that. So you can get 1 guy on each side, put your joiner in the joint, and then slam your straight edge up against it, and then you can start working out the kinks. So that's what we had to do. And now this final pass, you can see we've got water bottles out. Those water bottles have tiny holes we popped in the lid so we can kind of spray it. as we trowel. And believe me, we're not concerned about trapping water in the concrete out here because it can't get trapped. No matter what you do or how hard you try, the water's coming out because this is very dry and very hot. I also had my Milwaukee power trowel, the cordless unit. I had it on hand in the back of my truck just in case I ran into trouble, but I didn't, so I didn't have to get it out of the truck. We were able to handle this thing. We got 3 finisher. We got me, my brother, and then the other 2 guys, Louis and Manuel. Got Eric as a labor, and then we got the editor / cameraman / labor potential in emergencies. But look at that fiber starting to pop off the broom. That's how you know it's in there and you didn't get shorted. If you don't see that, then you didn't get the right amount of fiber. But that fiber makes a huge difference. Fiber and curing compound, without those 2 things, you're going to get cracks. Probably the first day. But if you get the fiber and the curing compound, no cracks. The wire mesh is going to give you the long-term structural aspect of it, but the overnighter or those first 3 days, it's going to be really the fiber and the curing compound for the first 3 days. After that, it's the wire takes over. She turned out beautiful. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. If you like these kind of videos, make sure you subscribe, share, and hit the notification button. That way you'll be notified as soon as we upload the next video. Have a good one. Bye.